Joining us tonight, I've assembled for you a really good panel tonight. We've got Radio 6PR Drive presenter Oliver Peterson and the principal at the PR Council coming in from Sydney tonight, Christy McSweeney. Welcome to the show, team.
Thanks for having me.
G'day, Caleb.
Good to have you both here. Now, we'll have to acknowledge it's on the front page of pretty much every newspaper around the country tomorrow, the continuation of all this business with Scott Morrison, of course, but it's been rather done to death today, so I think we'll leave that to one side and we'll get into some of the news stuff. On the front of the Oz tomorrow, the headline is Calls to End MUA Ports Chokehold. The story says that the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the Maritime Union's chokehold on ports has made them among the least efficient in the world as business groups prepare to push for, quote, sensible and modest industrial relations reform at the upcoming Jobs and Skills Summit. Now, Christy, of course, we know that the federal government now wants to get rid of the Australian building, the ABCC, which looks into, union busting and corruption in the construction industry. We know how bolshy the wharfies have been of late and they're going on strike. I mean, if they're allowed to simply get away with this, it leads to higher prices that we all pay and things are bad enough as they are.
Certainly, Australians have faced unprecedented supply chain challenges over the last couple of years, and during the election campaign I said to people repeatedly when I met them on the street, you think you've got problems now, you wait until the wharfs are choked and you are unable to get the limited freight that comes into this country off the dock. I said, you haven't seen anything yet. At least they're working. MUA, of course, is one of the most militant unions in Australia. And this is really, really brave of ACCI and the BCA ahead of the Job Summit, but they've obviously seen the writing on the wall. The Job Summit is a thank you, unions, for helping us win. What can we give you? But it is really nice of the business peak body lobbies to pull their finger out and fight a Labor government on industrial relations. They really have been pretty silent on fighting for IR of the last 5 or 6 years. Why they want to start now with a change of government, I have no idea, but there's strange bedfellows in politics, Caleb, as we all know.
Who would know, Christy? And speaking of pay and all these sorts of things, Ollie, another story on the front page of the Oz tomorrow. Headline is Lift Teachers Pay by 10% if they trade away holidays. Teachers would be paid 10% more to work in schools from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m, including school holidays, under reforms put before a parliamentary committee. One Nation New South Wales Upper House MP Mark Latham, who is chairing the state's inquiry into teacher shortages, is promoting a plan to link pay rises to time spent working in schools, on school holidays for lesson planning, marking exams and professional development. What do you reckon, Ollie? Do you reckon teachers would trade away their school holidays for a 10% pay rise, or are they due a pay rise anyway?
They're due a pay rise anyway, Caleb. 1, 2. My basic maths indicates that there are more than 5 weeks of holidays every single year for a teacher, and there's still only 52 weeks in the year. So we're going to need to do a little bit better than a 10% pay rise if we want to float this idea. I think probably 20, 25, possibly 30% might get it over the line. And where's the money going to come from? I think it's a bit naive to think that teachers just switch off when the bell rings at the end of the day, somewhere between 3 and 3:30. We know that. They're still there doing after-school activities, writing lessons plans for tomorrow, marking assessments. Maybe if they're in the private schools, they're obviously coaching sport as well. They're replying to, nagging parents' emails and the like. So I don't really think it's a fair offer at the moment. I like the idea of trying to attract and retain and encourage greater quality of teachers. I think that we can lift the benchmark of the people who are deciding that they want to go and educate the next generation of Australians. And that's no backhander to the people who are teachers at the moment. There are thousands and thousands of wonderful teachers across this country, but you want to make it an attractive career path. Obviously, the holidays, there are some benefit at the moment because of probably the lower rates of pay comparatively over your career. So I think we've got to try and think of everything we can do to encourage more people into the teaching profession. But I think this one, Caleb, might need just a little bit more work and perhaps a little bit more money. And I don't see endless piles of that at the end of the rainbow.
Well, if there's anything I know, it's that the AEU isn't going to roll over and take this proposal on face value. We'll move on to the Daily Telegraph tomorrow, where we have the continuation of a story that has gripped the nation. The headline is "Move Your Head." This is quite shocking. 4 men walked up to a car and told a teenage girl to wind down her window before one of them pushed her head out of the way and fired 15 bullets at backseat passengers Lametta Fadlala and Amy Hazuri, killing them. Horrifying details of the women's murders have been revealed by the 16-year-old girl who was in the front seat of the car that was targeted on Saturday night. It's a great exclusive on the front page of the Daily Telegraph tomorrow. Christy, obviously you're in Sydney at the moment. This is a very big story and obviously goes along with these gangland wars that have been going on in Sydney in the last few months. But you just wonder, how can someone do that in front of a 16-year-old girl, just tell her to move her head and fire 15 bullets?
This is a story that has gripped Sydney, you're right, and the country to an extent. And you are correct, it does come off the back of a number of other incidences. The police privately are telling stakeholders, such as people in the media and people associated with the media, that the rules of Gangland Sydney have been broken in the last few months and the place is not going to work. All of these things work in their own complex way between the police and criminal elements, and the police, they do their best, but of course some of these things are left to the criminal underworld to police themselves, as we know, and unfortunately the intricate web that holds all of that together is not going to work anymore, and police are really worried that more of this activity is going to be seen in New South Wales, particularly in that area of Sydney. And
yeah, and I mean, you're from Melbourne as well, and you're well aware of what has gone down here in Victoria over the years. And I mean, Ollie, you're sort of, it's not as bad over there in Perth, but if there is any hint that this is simply going to get worse in New South Wales, you are potentially looking at the bad old days that we had here in Victoria less than 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got to remind ourselves as well, though, this is, a turf war between, gangs and underworld criminals. This is not really anarchy on the streets of everyday Australians and like-minded viewers here of Sky News tonight, although I'm not saying we don't worry about it. We absolutely need to worry about it. You just don't want innocent people in the crossfires of what is really bad people up against bad people competing for supremacy on the streets of whatever they're trading, which is probably illegal substance, firearms and the like. It's, turf warfare. But of course we don't want to see that in Australia. Of course we don't want to see that on the streets of Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, Cairns, Darwin, anywhere around this country for that matter. I think we are well tooled within our police services. I know that the New South Wales Police Force as well have some of the best detectives in this country right now. They have a very strong gangland crime squad, and I'm sure as we speak this evening there would be covert surveillance operations on dozens of underworld figures in Sydney at the moment that they're going to keep a very close eye on. So, look, this story is horrible. It's horrific. As you said, Caleb, the thought of casting somebody's head to one side at the age of 15 or 16 and then firing multiple bullets into the head of somebody in the back seat. You cannot actually believe that would happen in Australia, and it sounds like the script of a Hollywood movie or an Underbelly series. But I think we have to keep it in context, and obviously the New South Wales government in this particular example and the police minister needs to make sure that all of the possible resources are made available to fight these gangland wars.